So in company assessment, I shared a problem in earlier two classes. We discussed case by case that how to deal with the company assessment problem. And when we are finishing the previous class, I told you that I would discuss with the financial statement type problem, which is more realistic and uh, which is more kind of a statement type problem that you need to adjust the numbers provided. So this is one kind of problem I plan to show you today. So you see that I have taken this problem from your text, work example 6. So this is a kind of statement of comprehensive income, uh, or conventionally known as a statement of profit and loss account, or simply profit and loss account, or very commonly income statement. So the thing is that on the left hand side, all expenses are given for a company, and all incomes are given on the right hand side of the statement. And you are very much familiar with this kind of a statement from your financial accounting. I have taken the case of a bank type company. You can recognize immediately that this is a statement of Oman Bank Limited. And it has also been mentioned that this is a non-resident bank. So before going to the discussion of company assessment, may I ask from you that how can we recognize a company as resident company or non-resident company? We know how to recognize an individual as resident or non-resident. Now the question is, how can we recognize a company as resident or non-resident company? We discussed about it.
Sir, can I tell?
Sure, anyone.
Sir, at the time of resident company, sir, at Bangladesh perspective, the company should be in Bangladeshi company,
Hmm. Then,
and their whole controlling and management system of the company is fully situated in Bangladesh for the last few years. It means এদের controlling এবং processing মার্কেটটার কোম্পানিটার বাংলাদেশ কেন্দ্রিক হতে হবে।
okay, many thanks, many thanks. The thing is that you have added another clause that for some years the control should lie in Bangladesh. The thing is that the time frame, what you have mentioned, the number of years has not been mentioned. Only the thing is that the company is situated in Bangladesh, and the the company means the company about which you are talking about, and the company's management and control are within the country. I mean within the Bangladesh. And now, if the company has been set up, for example, yesterday, and we have discovered that the company's control and management is within the Bangladesh, you can undoubtedly recognize that company as a resident company today. So it's not necessarily that the companies should continue its control and management in this country for last few years. Okay, the time frame clause is not present here as far my knowledge goes. Got it? Okay. So the statement is given for the date ended on 31st December 2018. So I have pointed out some items by dot. It is commonly used by you or users to separate those items, considering that these items require further modification or further adjustment with the numbers. That's why we have given some indication. I have put this number, the dot. Okay. So the items are given: the expenses, salaries and allowances, interest on deposits, car maintenance, head office expenses as per allocation by head office, bad debt, provision for bad debt, audit fee, depreciation, technical fee, scholarship to poor students, special reserve, advertisement, entertainment, traveling within the country, traveling outside the country, including head office tour. Uh, so we can get an indication that head office tour is outside the country. That means the head office is outside of the country. So the company is a kind of foreign company. Then interest and commission as a income component, and capital gain from sale of shares of listed companies. This is another income component. But in terms of long term and short term, this income is a kind of capital income type. So immediately what you have to do, you have reviewed the information provided in the statement. So then what we have to do, that we have to check what are the additional information given in the problem, so that we can make ourselves aware that in which item we need to make adjustment. So we see the first additional information is given. Salaries and allowances include incentive bonus to employees, taka 300,000. So it has been mentioned that salary and allowances includes an incentive bonus item. So that's why I have given a dot here, because I will require more adjustment here. We'll discuss about it, but I'm just giving you an idea that how we need to proceed. Okay. So we'll talk about the rules regarding incentive bonus to employees. Is there any ceiling? How much is admissible? How much is inadmissible? Okay. Tax at source was not deducted from car workshop bill of taka 200,000. So this car workshop bill is a part of this kind of expenses. You see, car maintenance. So probably some of you or many of you can recall that this kind of expenses requires tax deducted at source to be deducted by the person or by the company who is providing this car maintenance or workshop services. So if it has been found that tax at deducted at source has not been done properly, in that case, that expenses will become inadmissible expenses. So from where you will get this kind of references, you have the original reference is the Income Tax Ordinance 1981. The secondary reference is your textbook, the chapter Income from Business, Individual Assessment. There you will see that how much, which items are admissible, which items are inadmissible, how much is admissible, these things. We already have done with those things. So next one, provision for bad debt is within 1% of the classified loan. We'll also talk about it. So what we have done, you see provision of bad debt, I have identified this item as separate by putting a dot. Tax depreciation as per tax law is 1 million. So you are much comfortable with this already, because you know that depreciation, which is only allowed by the income tax ordinance, is allowable. Other depreciation will not be allowable. So can you recall which schedule of the income tax ordinance is concerned with the depreciation schedule? I probably have mentioned.
Third schedule.
Third schedule. Okay, thanks. Then, so what I have done in the depreciation part, I have put a dot to identify it separately. Next one, advertisement bill paid to the advertisement agency for periodic advertisement to private TV channel. No VAT was deducted therefrom, though tax at source was deducted properly. So you see two items here. One is VAT, another one is TDS. So we are much concerned about TDS right at this moment. We'll talk about VAT from next class. So what we are known that if tax at source has not been or is not charged properly, that expense, uh, tax at source on the expense of on which it should be. I mean, for example, salary is item on which TDS is applicable. So if we pay salary to our employees without charging TDS, in that case, that salary will become inadmissible. So advertisement bill is that kind of expenses on which TDS is applicable. So if we skip TDS, in that case, that advertisement bill will become inadmissible expenses. But we are given that tax at source was deducted properly. So let's begin the uh, try to solve the problem. But before that, let me give you some indication that some expenses or some items may require adjustment without having any additional information. Let me familiarize you with those items. Uh, Salaries and allowances usually do not contain that kind of expenses by default. Interest on deposit, no problem. Car maintenance, no problem. But head office expenses, as per allocation by head office, this expense. Can you recall there was an item in the admissible expenses? If you have the text, I should give you the page number so that you can remind yourself that we have seen such kind of expenses. Uh, if you have the page, if you have the text, you can open the page 144 from the ICAB text. So if you open the page number 144 on that page, you will see in the number 12 point, that head office expenditure intergroup expense called by whatever name of foreign company exceeding 10% of disclosed net profit. It is from Income Tax Ordinance Section 30 of 30G, subsection G. Okay. The thing is that how much expenses you can make for head office expenses? Maximum 10% of the disclosed net profit. So what is the disclosed net profit here? 400,000. So how much is 10% of this item, this amount?
13 million.
For how much is 10% of this? 400,000 is disclosed net profit.
40,000.
Okay, we cannot spend head office expenses beyond the 40,000. The rule what I just have mentioned is inadmissible expenses, which is telling that you cannot spend more than 10% of your disclosed net profit for the purpose of head office expenditure. So what is the ceiling for this expenditure? 40,000. How we have got
Yes, sir.
40,000, 10% of the disclosed net profit. But how much expenses has been made by this company?
3 lakh.
300,000. In that case, how much is extra? How much is
2
beyond
lakh
the
40,000.
maximum limit? 260,000.
260,000.
Okay, so we have got an item that which requires adjustment without having any additional information. You see any additional information regarding the head office expenses? No additional information here. But how we have identified it separately? Because we have learned from the rules that the expenses for head office cannot go beyond the 10% of the disclosed net profit. Okay. Second one, I should say that bad debt, provision for bad debt, we have given an additional information here that how much provision has been made for bad debt. You are familiar with the bad debt in the banking sector, very good amount in Bangladesh. You're familiar with the classified loan, this term? Are you familiar with this term, classified loan, in the banking industry in Bangladesh?
No, sir.
No?
No, sir.
Okay, so you should explore this area in our banking industry. You probably are taking the law and practice of banking course in this semester, or you will take. Are you taking law and practice of banking in this semester, or you have already taken, or you will be taking?
Sir, already taken.
Already taken. Okay, so you should have a good idea regarding the banking industry in Bangladesh and some issues in the banking industry. One major issue is the classified loan, which about which we are not doing good. We are continuously failing to curb it down, and this is going up. So there are complexities in classifying the debt, and sometimes the discussion, the order from Bangladesh Bank is used, that which loan should be recognized as classified, which loan should not be recognized as classified. So that is the discussion from the banking courts. But the thing is that this is one of the major issues what you as a finance undergrad you need to explore always, and you need to go through the news when the news is about the classified loan in the banking industry. This is kind of industry news about which we need to have a good idea. Okay, so then audit fee. I have not seen any restriction on audit fee, that how much you can spend for it maximum. Depreciation, we already have talked about it, that you need to follow the depreciation mandated by the third schedule of the income tax ordinance. You cannot go beyond that. Technical fee, it is one of the fees you need to be familiar with. Uh, the reason is that uh, there is a restriction that how much fee you can spend for technical fee. Okay, if you have the text, I will try to, I would like to tell you to open the page number uh, which page, page 150, page 150. I believe that many of you have uh, joined the class with your text. That's why I'm not opening the reference from the income tax ordinance. Or if you want me to open the reference from the income tax ordinance, in that case, I can open from the online source. Regarding the technical expenses, restriction on technical expenses, what can I do? We can open the reference section, that is 30H. You see this section on which I am scrolling my cursor?
Yes.
Deduction not admissible in certain circumstances. Okay, I see. Okay, you see. So these are some expenses on which restrictions have been provided, and we need to be very familiar, and we need to go through these expenses several times, either from here or from your text, to solve the company assessment problem. So right now you're talking about the technical know-hows or technical fees. So the reference section is 30J. So here you see 30H for technical expenses. You see that so much of the expenditure, let me begin it from the heading. You see, otherwise you will not get it. notwithstanding anything contained in section 29, no deduction on account of allowance from income from business or profession shall be admissible in respect of the following. So it is always complicated to understand the section of law. No deduction is allowable. The summary is no deduction is admissible here in this regard. Okay, the summary understanding is no deduction is allowable in the following regard. Okay, so number A, any payment which is an income of the pay classifiable under the head salaries if tax thereon has not been paid in accordance with the provision of chapter 7. I already have mentioned about it. On salaries, the TDS is applicable. So if you go to chapter 7, you will see detail about the detailing about it. But if we miss or if we forget to deduct the TDS on salaries expenses will become inadmissible. So in relation with it, let's continue to understand the technical fees. So much of the expenditure or aggregate of the expenditure by an SSC by way of royalty, technical services fee, technical know-how fee, or technical assistance fee, or any fee of similar nature. Try to understand it very carefully because I may not give you the exact term in your question. I may give you a hint that this kind of expenses has been made to set up this technology or to import this technology. So in that case, you will be very likely to understand that this fee, what has been paid, is a kind of technical know-how fee or the technical assistance fee. I may not mention directly that it is technical know-how fee or it is technical assistance fee. So what is the rule? The rule is that for the first 3 income years from the commencement of the business or profession, for the first 3 income years. So let's say your company has been set up in the income year which is currently going on 2021. In that case, which are the first 3 income years? 2020, 2021, 2021 to 2022, 2022 to 2023. Is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So how much is your ceiling? Your ceiling is 10% of the net profit. I'll try to explain it later. 10% simply it is 10% of the disclosed net profit. I will not give you so much complexities, just try to understand for the practical purpose. 10% of the disclosed net profit. Where it has been disclosed, it has been disclosed in the statement of accounts. Is it kind of a statement of accounts what we are right now seeing? Is it kind of a statement of accounts? A net profit has been disclosed here. You see, 400,000. So this
Yes,
is
sir.
kind of net profit about which the section is referring to. So net profit, which net profit? Net profit from business or profession, excluding any profit or income of subsidiary or associate or joint venture. So what you cannot do as a business owner, you cannot add any profit or income of subsidiary or associate or joint venture companies with this company, with your company. So you cannot add any income or profit of joint venture, subsidiary, associate companies with here, with the net profit of this company here. Okay. So On that net profit, how much is selling? 10%. So you see, in our case, the year ended on 31st December 2018. From this information, do we have any indication that in which year the company has commenced its operation? Do we have any indication?
No, sir.
So we have no indication. So what can we do? We can look at the second clause for subsequent income years. I mean, if it is not applicable, in our case, we are not seeing any evidence that this is within the 3 years from the commencement. So what can we do? We can check that what may be applicable in case, in our case, 8% of the disclosed net profit in the statement of accounts. The wordings within the bracket are same as before. Okay. So you see, so in our case, which clause we can take, number 1 or number 2?
Number 2.
Number 2. Okay. So in our case, disclosed net profit is how much?
400,000.
So how much is 8% of the disclosed net profit?
32,000.
30?
32,000.
32,000. So how much expense has been made for technical fees by this company?
100,000.
100,000. Have we exceeded the selling?
Yes, sir.
How much? 68,000.
60.
So that 68,000 will become admissible expenses or inadmissible expenses?
Inadmissible.
Inadmissible expenses.
So have we got it? That means it has become inadmissible. I mean, not the full amount, but a certain amount which is beyond the ceiling amount. So can we continue?
Sir, I have one question here.
Okay, sure.
Uh, Sir, you have shown on the internet that there was a thing that if the commencement of the if there is any মানে যদি commencement year যদি দেওয়া থাকে তাহলে পরবর্তী 3 বছরের ক্ষেত্রে পরবর্তী 3 বছর অ্যাসেসমেন্ট ইয়ারে আর কি 10%
10% of
হিসেবে
year.
কাউন্ট হবে স্যার বইতে স্যার ওটা পাচ্ছিলাম না স্যার 150 নম্বর পেজে
Yeah, it has not been provided in the text, assuming that there will be no information in the problem regarding the commencement of the company. So ultimately, the original reference for us is not the text. The original reference is this one, the Income Tax Ordinance 1984. So if we see any confusion in the text, we should immediately look at the Income Tax Ordinance 1984. Okay. So the text has not mentioned that, assuming that there will be no problem in the text, in which case the commencement and the business income year is within the 3 years of the commencement. So they have not provided any, probably they have not provided any indication in which year the company has commenced. So in that case, you will see that the clause, what we just have observed, will not be has not been applied in our text. That's why they have not included that. Okay.
but yes sir, so therefore sir we should keep in mind the 10%, right sir?
As we just have learned together, you can keep it in your mind.
Okay sir, thank you
Right?
sir.
Okay.
Yes sir, I
Okay.
understood, sir.
Okay. So let's continue. Scholarship to poor students. This expense look like business expense or CSR expense?
CSR expense.
Okay, so this expense look like CSR expenses. Can you recall some conditions in tax rebate calculation for CSR expenditure? Can you recall or can you remind me some conditions which you have learned in calculation of CSR and tax rebate for CSR?
Sir, 10% of sales or 1.5 crore, maybe it type of issue, sir.
This is kind of maximum how much you can be allowed for CSR, right?
Yes, yes, sir, yes, sir.
Okay. So there are some other conditions. Can anyone recall any condition related with it? Right now, we are concerned with what? Whether this expense will be admissible expense for tax purpose or inadmissible expense for tax purpose, right? So right now, our purpose is that. So with relation to our purpose, can anyone recall any condition which is related to this item, particularly scholarship to poor students? Anyone?
এটাকে এক্সপেন্সে ইনক্লুড করা যাবে না।
Thank you very much. If you want to get the tax rebate on some expenses which look like CSR expenses, what you cannot do, you cannot show that expenses as a expense in your statement of comprehensive income or a statement of income. Okay, so we assume that company will look for CSR tax rebate out of these expenses. That is one issue that we, in that case, we should exclude this expense from the expense item. Okay, so this is one issue. Another issue is that can you recall from the CSR expenditures item that there were a specific list of expenses for which CSR tax rebate can be claimed? Can you recall there was a long list? There was a long list that which expenses, did you find any item there that if you make research expenses for a private university, you will get the CSR tax rebate for that? Did you get any item like this? But you get some item like that, you if you spend money for public universities, you can claim CSR expenditure. You can claim that expenditure as a part of approved CSR expenditure. Can anyone tell me the page number so that I can take you there to see that which expenses are part of CSR expenditure? I mean, it can be CSR, but in the tax environment, you need to recognize that if you make CSR expenditure beyond the list of CSR expenditure mentioned by the tax authority, you will not be able to get the tax rebate. So not one of the, for most of the businesses, the main purpose is not to become the philanthropic business enterprise, but to get the tax rebate by making by using or by maximum utilization of CSR expenditure. Obviously, there is a ceiling that how much money you can spend. Can anyone recall that list? The page number from the text where we have learned about the CSR expenditure.
স্যার নিখিলের বইয়ে স্যার 142 and 143 তে আছে স্যার, নিখিলের বইয়ে।
Okay. What about the ICAB text? I also have the Nikhil text. So if you have the text, what can I do? Page number 140.
Sir, 142 and 3, sir.
142 and 3. Did you learn the CSR from the Nikhil text or ICAB text? Probably from Nikhil text.
Yes, sir. Mona hai, sir.
Okay, okay.
স্যার পেজ 332 তে এরকম একটা লিস্ট আছে আইসিএবি বইটাতে।
Okay. So, page 332.
জি স্যার, পেজ 332 থেকে শুরু হয়েছে।
Okay, okay, thanks. Okay, right. So, if you have the ICAB text before you, you can open the page number 332. Or if you have the Nikhil text from where we talked about or we discussed about the CSR expenses, you can open the page number 142. Okay. So one thing what we have learned regarding the scholarship to poor students, we have learned that to claim the tax rebate, we cannot show that expense in the expense statement or a statement of comprehensive income. So you will get this condition mentioned in the number 7 point 5.14 section, page number 143 in the on the Nikhil text, that the expenditure cannot be considered as admissible expenses in the books of accounts. And if you want to see it from the ICAB text, what can you do? You can see this as number point 5 under the section 20.9 on the page number 332. Got it? The first issue. Anyone missed that you are not getting anyone either from any source? Okay, I assume that you all have got. Okay, second issue. Second issue is that the public and private, what you can see if you have the Nikhil text, what can you do? You can open, you can see page number 142 on the Nikhil text, point 13, donation to public universities. Have you seen it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, next one, number 14, donation for promoting technical and vocational education for poor meritorious students through any government approved educational institution. Have we got?
Yes, sir.
Okay, next one, donation to government or MPU included private educational institution to establish lab and arrange training for IT, computer, and English education. So if you see the list carefully, you will see the list is very specific and is you have to maintain that list appropriately to make your CSR expenditure admissible for tax rebate purposes. But you see what has been mentioned here, scholarship to poor students merely. Anything else? Anything else has
No,
been
sir.
mentioned about it?
No, sir.
So can we assume anything about it, that uh, it is for the public universities, or it is for the items what we just had mentioned? We cannot relate this with any other things, right?
Yes, sir.
Because this is not a specific or no additional information is given. So what can you do? The safe way in the exam is to give a note that as no additional information is given regarding the scholarship to poor students. That's why you cannot claim that that expense will be considered for CSR expenses. Okay. So another thing what we like to add with this is, if it is not part of CSR expenses, if it is not part of CSR expenses, so that is one issue, that it is not part of CSR expenses. Can we still include this as admissible expense? I have thrown out a question that if it is not a part of CSR, it is not, if it is CSR, in that case, you cannot show it as admissible expenses. But what I am asking now, if you have proved that it is not a part of CSR, is it still admissible expenses, or it will become inadmissible?
So it will become inadmissible,
Why?
Let me see.
as it is not included in it is not included, and also it has not been clear that this expense has been spent for public universities or the other things mentioned in the IT section.
Okay, we have made it clear that we uh, it is not part of CSR. That's why you have concluded that it is not part of CSR. So that is separate thing. Right now, I am asking, if we have concluded it is not part of CSR, is it still admissible expenses in case of company assessment? CSR is a different thing. We are not doing here for CSR. What we are doing here, we are assessing the net profit for the company for the tax calculation. Have we got the question? We have confirmed that this is not part, will not be part of CSR expenses. Okay, that is okay. The second question is, if that is true, can we include these expenses as admissible expenses in company assessment?
Yes, sir.
How? Do you have any reference? Any reference?
As it of CSR now.
The conditions what we just have discussed or asked from you, one condition is that it cannot be shown in the statement of accounts. Okay, if it is CSR, what you cannot do, you cannot show that expense in the statement of accounts if it is truly CSR. The second condition is that if it is to be CSR, it should be spent for specific purposes or a specific institutions which have been mentioned in the list. But the thing is that the separate thing from the CSR is assessment of companies. Let me write it down for you. Otherwise, you are getting confused. Okay. Right now, what we are doing? Okay. Right now, we are doing company assessment. What is our purpose? Our purpose is to compute the taxable profit and get the net tax liability from the taxable profit or the total tax liability. But in the area of discussion where we discussed about the CSR, what we need to do, we need to check which items are allowable for CSR expenses. We will sum up all these expenses. Then we will check the ceilings, that how much we can show as CSR. And from this, we will get a tax rebate, or we will get an amount for which we can reduce our tax liability. Is it true? From here, say we have got 1000 tax rebate calculation. From calculation, we have got 1000 tax rebate is applicable for me. So what is that purpose? What is the purpose is that we can reduce our tax liability by 1000. Have we got two different things? We are discussing about scholarship to poor students. So the question is, if a scholarship to poor students is actually CSR or under the list of CSR, or we cover within the CSR, in that case it is okay that we have included in the CSR calculation and also tax rebate for CSR calculation. In that case, that expense, scholarship to poor children, cannot be included as admissible expenses. Up to this, it is clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the second question. Second question is that we have confirmed that it should not be included as CSR. It should not be included as CSR because it does not conform or it does not satisfy the conditions mentioned in the CSR list. In that case, what should we do with the company scholarship to poor children, that expense item? Should we continue to include that expense as an expense item, or we need to skip that expense item from here? Have we got the question? I'm not asking for answer right now. If the question is clear, we can continue. The question is not clear. Question is clear. Either clear or not clear, the question. We
Sir,
cannot
maybe
keep
not
silent.
clear to anyone.
Maybe not clear.
Yes, sir. Sir, repeat করলে better হয়.
Okay. We have confirmed that that expense, scholarship to poor children, is not eligible to be included in the CSR. So that's fine. For that reason, we are not getting any tax rebate for that. Okay, it is clear. Now the thing is that that item which you have not included in the CSR is still an expense item. So there are two categories of expenses. Some expenses are admissible, some expenses are inadmissible based on the tax standard. So can we continue to assume the scholarship to poor children as inadmissible expense or admissible expense?
Sir,
Sir,
inadmissible.
admissible expense.
Admissible. Inadmissible. So I have got vote for two. Okay.
Sir,
Huh.
sir, admissible.
Not admissible.
Sir, admissible only.
Admissible. Okay. So what I like to give you a task, that what you will do, you will go to income tax ordinance and look at this section 29 and section 30. Section 29 and section 30, and you will get your answer that whether this expense will be admissible or inadmissible in that case. Forget about the CSR. When it is CSR, obviously it will become inadmissible because you cannot show that you cannot claim benefits from two sources. How two sources? One benefit is by showing it as CSR, you are taking the tax rebate. If you show that expense again as expense in the taxable profit calculation, in that case, if you show that expense, your taxable profit will go down and your tax will go down. So for the same item, you cannot claim the tax rebate from two sources. So for that justification, it is not admissible if it is a CSR expenses. Okay. Now the question is, if it is not CSR, but it is an expenses, what will happen? That is the question. You need to explore the answer by yourself, and we'll discuss about that in the next class. Let's continue with our original problem. Okay. Special reserve. uh, if there is no mentioning, there are some certain reserve which is specifically mentioned in the income tax ordinance. You can see from the list of admissible expenses and admissible expenses, but there is no indication for which this special reserve has been maintained. That's why it will become inadmissible. Uh, Advertisement, we are getting any additional information here that tax at source deducted properly, but no VAT was deducted. Okay. So we'll continue, we'll try to solve this problem after having the learning from here. Traveling within the country, there is no restriction. Traveling outside the country, there is restriction on the overseas travel or foreign travel. So if you have the ICAB text, what can I do? I can refer you to the page number where you have seen the technical know-hows. There you will see that overseas traveling expenses cannot go beyond 1.25% of the turnover. So if I like to show you from the original reference, you see uh, it is from the 30K. You see the highlighted line, any expenditure by way of overseas traveling expenditure. So in text, it has been mentioned 1.25% of the turnover. In the section, it has been mentioned how much? 0.50%. So let's see when it has been changed. It is mentioned that this percentages has been changed in the 2020 Finance Act. And what about it? The semicolon was substituted. Okay, it is previous 2017. Okay, in text, we are getting 1.25% of the turnover. And in the section, we are getting 0.50% of the disclosed turnover. The question is, do we have Finance Act 2021? Do we have Finance Act 2021 available? What do you think? 2021 fiscal year is already finished or not? We see
Not
Finance Act is available up to
2020.
2020. Okay. So in that case, can we take this as the latest? Which one? Uh, this one. Okay. This one is the latest. 0.50% of the disclosed turnover. But on the text, page number 150 of the ICAB text, you see 1.25% of the turnover. Probably it is from the previous Finance Act. So what can we do? We should take 1.25% or 0.05%.
0.05%, sir.
Okay, it is not, sorry, it is not 0.05, it is 0.5%.
Sorry,
0.50%. Okay. So what can we do for the question we will solve today? We will solve the problem with the 1.25% of the turnover. But for the upcoming problems, what we will solve later, please note it, that replace the 1.25% by 0.5%. Got it?
yes, sir.
Okay.
So we will follow 0.5%
Oh,
from
yeah,
the.
yeah, 0.5. Okay.
Okay.
So you see, the tax slab has been changed from this year. Tax slab, income tax slab has been changed from this year. But in our text, we see the tax slab are of previous years.
Yes, sir.
So which slabs we are following? The latest?
Current
The
slab.
latest, the current.
Current slabs we are following. Okay, fine. So let's continue. Before that, okay. You see another item, capital gain from sale of shares of listed companies. Can it be included in the income from business or profession, or it should be separated out? What do you think? This one, capital gain from sale of shares of listed companies? What do you think? Is there any separate heading for capital gain in the income tax where it should be taken, or it should be added in the income from business or profession? Which one will be better? Have you got my point, what I'm asking for?
Sir, as far as I can recall, it has a separate heading.
Okay, okay. In that case, it should be separated out. This should not be part of income from business or profession, as there has been a separate heading dedicated for capital gain. We should take it out from the income from business, and it should be shown as capital gain separately. Okay, let's begin the solving problem. So how can we start? We can start with the net profit. My voice is louder enough to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I can hear you
Sir.
properly.
Okay, thank you. So let's begin with the net profit, and we'll do some adjustment. Okay, first of all, net profit as per profit and loss account. Let me clear the canvas first. Clear. Okay, I'm not writing the heading. You have to write the heading, the SSC name, the income year, the assessment year. Okay. First of all, net profit as per a statement of accounts. So the accounts is profit and loss account. Why I have mentioned a statement of accounts? What has been mentioned here? Okay, That account is actual profit and loss account. Okay. So how much is net profit? 400,000. Let's write it down here. 400,000. It is BDT. It is out of the writing area. Okay. Then we need to separate the capital gain item first because it is a big item which has a significant influence on this. So let's separate it out first. Capital gain from sale of shares of listed companies. Why we are separating it out? Because we'd like to consider it separately. Capital gain to be considered separately. How much? 1 million. So we are subtracting it out. In that case, how much is remaining? 600,000 taka net profit or net loss?
So net loss.
So have you seen for this inclusion of capital gain, net profit, net loss has become net profit. Okay. So that would give a that would give I should say the wrong signal to the investors because the net profit comes from the core operations and capital gain is a part of irregular kind of non-core business operation. Okay. So we should explore, we should look for those businesses which are earning profit from their core operation. Okay. It is not what I would say that it is not part of core operation in a case for a reason that what should I say? Say which company I should pick out. Say this is a banking company, right? So which income should be its core and which income its which expense will be core expenses. You see, interest and commission, this is kind of core income for a banking company.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
This kind of core income for a banking company.
This
Are
is
you
the core
getting?
income. Yes, sir. This
Yeah.
is the
Okay. Which expense is a core expense for this company? This is one of those. Interest on
deposit
deposits,
interest expense. Yes,
then
sir.
salaries and allowances, then bad debt, then audit fee. These are part of expenses, though part of operating and administrative expenses, but the main core expense is interest on deposits. Okay, as it is a bank company. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so we need to write the inadmissible expenses. There are different ways of solving the same problem. So you can solve any option in admissible expenses. So let me begin by writing those items first, which are in the additional information section. Then we will look for each and individual item on which adjustment is needed. So first of all, salaries and allowances include incentive bonus to employees, taka 300,000. So now the question is, how can we solve this problem? We need to go for checking there whether any ceiling is applicable for incentive bonus. It is obviously allowable, but there may be some ceiling on incentive bonus. if you have the text, you can again open the
10%
page
of
number,
disclosed net profit.
open the page number 150. From that, you will see that 10% of the disclosed net profit is the ceiling for incentive bonus, section 30J. You see, if you do not have the text available with you, the item, the highlighted, you see,
Yes, sir.
an expenditure by way of incentive bonus, how much it can exceed up to 10% of the disclosed net profit, not beyond that. Okay, so let me check that how much has been done. The amount which has been done is 300,000, but the ceiling is 10% of the disclosed net profit. In that case, what can we do? We can write in this way: incentive bonus. I am writing in brief form. What can you do? You can give more wordings to make it clear to the examiner and reader as well. So 300,000 taka expenses for incentive bonus has been made, but we see it is beyond the limit of 40,000. How we have got 40,000? Because in the income tax state or standard, it has been maintained, it has been mentioned that it cannot go beyond 10% of the disclosed net profit. So here it is 40,000. It is 40,000 here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So how much is excess?
So 260,000.
So excess expenses should be added or subtracted? Excess expenses which is inadmissible should be added or subtracted?
Added.
So we are adding those expenses. So first one is incentive bonus, we have already done. Okay, so one thing is done. Second one, tax at source was not deducted from the car workshop bill of taka 200,000. What we have mentioned about it?
The full expense will be inadmissible.
Only this one or this one?
Full expense 5 lakh.
How? How can you make you confirm that the another 300,000 was also without TDS? Is there an indication? There is an indication that for 200,000 you didn't make the TDS.
Oh, sorry, sir, I did not notice that earlier.
So which will be inadmissible? Full 500,000 or 200,000?
For 200,000.
Okay. So you can write here car workshop bill. We can give an indication for not paying TDS.
স্যার এটা একটু আরেকবার রিপিট করলে ভালো হতো কার ওয়ার্কশপের।
Okay. Will it be better if I give you the reference, or I should just explain how we have calculated it?
জি স্যার, রেফারেন্সটা দিলে একটু ভালো।
Okay, fine. If you have the text, you can open the page number. Where should I show you? Page number 143. The ICAB text, deduction not admissible in certain circumstances. There you will see in the number 2 point, any payment wherefrom tax is deductible but not deducted. Have you seen? It is of the section 30AA. You see, any payment any payment made by an assessee to any person if tax thereon has not been deducted and credited in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 7. Okay, you will see a specific example of expenses in the following section. So how can we have made ourselves confirmed that TDS is applicable on the car workshop bill? You see, the indication indicates that the TDS was applicable on the car workshop bill, but it was not deducted. Does it indicate that kind of interpretation? Tax at source was not deducted from car workshop bill. If you now like to see the reference of TDS, in that case, that will be more clear, but I'm not sure that list has been included in the text. Can you recall that I refer a long list in which the TDS percentages and TDS items have been given in detail, a long list of tables?
জি স্যার, টিডিএস এর চ্যাপ্টারটাতে আছে।
Right. So there you will see there is an item for workshop bill or maintenance like this. Give me time so that I can find out it for you. Uh, okay, fine. If you have the text, ICAB text, please open the page number 233. If you have the page number 233 open before you, you can see in the section serial number 6, then in the number 4 column, you will see that motor garage workshop. Have you seen number 9?
জি স্যার, পেয়েছি।
Okay, so what does it mean? If you go to motor garage workshop, they will charge a TDS on the expenses made by you. Okay, so you have got the reference. Let me continue. Anyone requires explanation for this anymore? Car workshop bill, why we have made it inadmissible? There will be some other expenses which are not car workshop bill, but just get the hint, just get the idea that if there is an expenses on which TDS is applicable, but TDS has not been paid, in that case, that expense will become inadmissible. Okay. So these are kind of some practice problem. Okay, let's continue. Next one. Provision for bad debt is within the 1% of the classified loan. You see, the classified loan, out of the classified loan, 1% bad debt has been made. So the provision for bad debt. Are you familiar with the provision for classified loan in the banking industry? When the provision is increased by the central bank, and this provision percentages usually deducted by the central bank, that how much provision is made for classified loan, how much you should make, and if it goes up, it is very likely that you will see the profit of banking company drops and the vice versa. For example, in the last year, due to COVID situation, the central bank has become very flexible and lenient to declare the classified loan, any loan as classified loan, any non-performing loan as classified loan, and also are flexible regarding the provision for bad debt. So that's why banking companies are able to show higher profit compared to the profit what they would show if the provision rulings are same as before. So the thing is that what should you know for tax purposes? It is a clearly financial statement expense. Provision for bad debt. There is no restriction on that in financial statement. But what we are doing right now, we are doing financial statement or we are doing tax statement. We are doing we are preparing financial statement or we are preparing tax statement.
Tax statement.
We are preparing tax statement. Very careful. That's why we need to have a good idea both about the financial accounting and of the tax accounting. Okay, if you have the ICAB text, please open the page number 142. I have mentioned the page number 142 here for finding out the reference. Provision for bad and doubtful debt and interest thereon made by a commercial bank, including the Bangladesh Krishi Bank and the Rajshahi Krishi Union Bank, of a sum equal to 1% of the outstanding loan, including interest thereon, or the amount of actual provision, whichever is less, subject to the specified condition. It has been mentioned that what can you do? You can make provision for bad debt, but how much? The lower amount between 1% of the outstanding loan and interest, or the actual amount, actual provision, what you are making between these two, which one is lower, you can make the provision for that amount. But for our purpose, the task has become easy because the admissible expense for the provision for bad debt has been discontinued after 2006 to 2007 income year. It was continued from 1992-91 to 2006 to 2007. So right now we are in which income year? Sorry, which assessment year? 2019-20. If it is 2018 income year, we are in which assessment year?
2019-20.
2019-20. So right now the provision for bad debt is not admissible expenses. It has become inadmissible expenses in tax standard. Have you got it? You will get
Yes, sir.
confused. How? By looking at this statement. It has been mentioned that provision for bad debt is within the 1% of the classified loan. You will get confused that obviously it looks like admissible expenses because it has been mentioned it is within the 1% of the classified loan. But after 2006-07, this provision altogether has become inadmissible. But what the company has done in financial accounting, there is no restriction on that. But what we are doing tax accounting. In that case, what we should do? We should make it inadmissible or continue considering admissible. This 400,000, are you with me
Inadmissible.
or become tired?
Sir, inadmissible.
Right. Provision for bad debt has become discontinued from
2006-7.
2000,
Sorry,
from 2007-8
sorry, sir.
up to 2006-7 it was continued. Okay, now it is not applicable. Okay, how much?
400,000.
400,000. Okay, fine. Next one. Okay. Tax depreciation as per tax law is 1 million. Okay. How much depreciation the bank has already charged? Financial accounting, 1.5 million.
50 lakh.
Yeah, 15 lakhs or 1.5 million. The company has exceeded the limit or within the limit.
So
The depreciation has exceeded the limit. In that
Yes, sir.
case, what we need to do? We need to make the excess expense, excess depreciation expense inadmissible.
Yes, sir. Inadmissible.
Excess from what?
The tax ceiling, tax depreciation ceiling.
Depreciation maintained in the tax standard or the tax ceiling for depreciation. The original source is third schedule. Okay. Excess depreciation. How much?
5 lakh.
Okay, fine. Let's continue. Advertisement bill paid to advertisement agency for periodic advertisement to private TV channel. No VAT was deducted therefrom, though the tax at source was deducted it properly. If it is satisfied, it is okay. Tax at source was deducted properly. If I would give you the problem where I mentioned that tax at source was not deducted properly, what you would do? You would make the
The expense as inadmissible.
expenses inadmissible. Now, should we make an adjustment here? Should we make any adjustment here?
So as the TDS has been paid, it should not be added in the inadmissible expense.
Okay, okay. So we'll talk about VAT later, but right now the admissible expenses and inadmissible expenses are not related with this, whether VAT was deducted or not. Okay, it is related with what? TDS was deducted or not. Okay, let's continue with the inner item. So we already have done with we are already done with salaries and allowances and interest on deposits, no problem. Car maintenance done already. Head office expenses. Can you recall what we made in the initial discussion? How much is ceiling for head office expenses? Can you recall?
So
sir, 10% of
8%.
disclosed net profit.
10% of the disclosed net profit. Okay. Do you want to see the reference? I probably have already shown you the reference, right? From the text.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you want to see the reference from the income tax ordinance, the reference number is 30G. Here. Any expenditure exceeding 10% of the disclosed net profit by way of head office or intra-group expenses called by whatever name by a company not incorporated in Bangladesh under Company Act 1994. So the ceiling is maximum 10%. Okay, so how much the company has done expenses? 300,000. How much is excess? 10% of 400,000 is 40,000. The company has spent 300,000. So it is 260,000 extra beyond the ceiling, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
250,000.
Okay. So excess head office expenses 260,000, right? Okay, next. Uh, Bad debt, provision for bad debt, what we already have discussed about it. Audit fee, depreciation, done. Technical fee, should we make adjustment here?
Yes, sir.
What is the restriction, what is the ceiling for technical fee?
So if the commencement year is not included, it will be 8%.
Okay, so 8% of 400,000, how much?
32,000.
How much expense company has made? 100,000.
So 68,000 will be excess, which will be inadmissible.
Yeah, thank you. Excess technical fees, it is 100,000, 32,000. You are requested to show how you are getting 32,000. Okay, either here or in note in detail. So you are getting here, how much is extra? 68,000. That's why you are adding it back. Okay, next one. Sorry. A scholarship to poor students. What should we do now? What should we do now? A scholarship to poor students.
Should we add it as inadmissible, sir?
Okay, first of all, we have confirmed that it is not a CSR expenses. So in that case, admissibility or inadmissibility question is not coming here in relation to CSR expenses. Another point is what you can look at here, that it is business expenses or not. It is not a business expenses. Okay. So in tax statement, it is in your tax standard and tax rules, you will see that any expenses which does not look like business expenses will be inadmissible. So from that reference, we are making these expenses as inadmissible. So otherwise, if we would if we could make it as CSR expenses, we would surely make it as inadmissible. But right now we are not getting any CSR indication and also not indication of business expenses. So that's why it is inadmissible expenses. So a scholarship to poor students. So in your real life, if you want to get tax rebate or CSR tax rebate or making it admissible, you must be very careful before making the expenditure. Otherwise, you cannot claim the tax rebate. Okay. So how much it is? 800,000. 800,000. So you have already have got the answer about which I asked you to look for, and we mentioned that we will talk about it in next class. That if the expense does not look like a business expenses, in that case, that expense will be treated as inadmissible expenses. Okay. So let's continue for special reserve. What we have mentioned, as there are no specific purposes mentioned, and we cannot confirm that it is within the tax standard or not. That's why it will become inadmissible. How much it is? 200,000. So a special reserve 200,000. Next one, advertisement. We are already done with this advertisement. Entertainment. Can you recall there is a specific provision for entertainment that you cannot take it as granted, rather you have to make it calculated from the calculation after having all calculation completed. We already have done this kind of calculation. We'll do it. Okay. So first of all, what you need to do, you need to make it as inadmissible, and we will go for finding out applicable or admissible entertainment expenses by calculation. Okay. So we will make this calculation later. First of all, what can we do now? We can make the entertainment expenses what has been shown in the statement of account as totally inadmissible. Entertainment expenses, how much it is? 800,000. We'll talk about it again later. I am giving an star mark here. Okay. What's the remaining? Overseas traveling. Can you recall the limit for overseas traveling?
1.25%.
Okay. Which one is updated number?
0.5%.
Okay. So what is 1.25% of the turnover? Now let's, which one should be considered as turnover? In total or only interest and commission for bank? Which one is part of turnover? You are very
Interest
familiar.
and commission.
Interest and commission only. Okay. So let's take 1.2 million and multiply it by 0.0125. How much? 150,000, right?
Yes, sir, 150,000.
Okay. But how much has been spent? 450,000?
Excess 3 lakh.
Okay. In that case, how much has been made beyond the ceiling?
So 3 lakh.
300,000. It is inadmissible. Okay. Anything else other than entertainment expense consideration? Anything else? Nothing else. What can you do now? We can sum all of the inadmissible expenses first. Can anyone sum all these expenses up? Let me, okay. Just tell me the number in total for inadmissible expenses. This is one way of solving the problem. You can also solve the problem in different way by what we have done here. We have netted, we have shown the net expenses here. So alternatively, you can add back the actual expenses what has been made, and you can subtract the eligible or admissible expenses separately. You could see the that way from your text. So what we have done here the net calculation. Okay. Has anyone completed the summing up all of these numbers?
So 37 lakh 88,000.
37 lakh 88,000. Okay. If we sum this number by with 600,000, how much we are getting? Is it?
Yes, sir, this amount.
Okay. Can you recall the ceiling for entertainment expenses calculation? For the first 10 lakh, it is 4%, and for the remaining, it is 2%. Can you recall that? We did the calculation for previous problem. If you have the text, you can open the page number 148 and look at the entertainment expenses. You see, for the first 1 million of profit, it is to be 4%,
Yes, sir.
and for the balance, it is to be 2%. Which profit? The profit excluding the expense for entertainment expense. That's why we have not subtracted the entertainment expenses, right?
Yes, sir. We didn't subtract that.
Okay. So let's see. We make a breakdown for first 1 million. We need to take 4%. What we are doing? We are doing calculation for entertainment expenses. Okay. What is remaining? 2.188 million. Okay. How much we should take? We should take 2%. Now, have you got the calculation? We already have done it once before. It is for the second time probably.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How much here? How much here? How much here? You can tell me the total. Can anyone confirm the total number? How much you have got?
83,760.
80.
83,000.
This one.
No, sir. Zero. স্যার 8 আর 3 এর মাঝখানে শূন্যটা কাটা যাবে স্যার। 83,000।
Oh, sorry. 83,000.
Yes, sir. 83,000.
Okay. So what should we do? We should consider it as entertainment
Expense.
expense 83,760. Now, what is our taxable profit? Our taxable profit from income from banking businesses
31 lakh
31 lakh
4,240.
4,240.
Yes, sir.
I mean 3 million or 3.104 million. Okay. So this is our income from business. And can you recall the income from capital gain?
Sir, it was 10 lakh.
It
10,
was 10 lakh. Okay. So what we should do now, we should go for calculating the tax for tax for the income for banking companies. So can you recall the tax rate for foreign bank? Can you recall the tax rate for foreign banks? Have you seen what is the tax rate for foreign bank? Let me open the document for you. Can anyone recall? It was 40%, but I am asking for whether there has been any changes in this year. here. Uh, these are the rate for this one. You see the second number, 40%.
Yes, sir. 40.
This is for the publicly, non-publicly traded company. Which kind of company? Bank, insurance, financial institution. Okay. So 40% will be applied on which amount? 40% will be applied on,
For foreign banks which are not public.
yeah, on this amount. Which amount will be applied? 40% will be applied. And the tax on capital gain, the rate is different. You will see the income from capital gain chapter, you will see the rate is, rate differs based on the condition that for after how many years from the acquisition of the capital asset you have sold out your asset. If it is within the specific number of years, the rate is different. If it is beyond the specific number of years, in that case the rate is different. That is our out of our discussion area, because we have not included the income from capital gain in our business taxation course outline for this semester. Okay, but you will see, for your interest, I'm requesting you to see the rate differs based on this kind of sub classification. Okay, so have we got it? How can we come up with the company assessment uh, with the example of a banking company?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there are some other practical examples for leasing company, for insurance company, for trading pharmaceutical companies, or for other manufacturing companies. So what should I do right now? I should end the session for today here. Then I will talk about something about